Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our compression kind of little mini series. It's only 2 parts. Today we're actually going to go into Pro Tools and look at the compressor. So I have a little session here and I was going to throw some compression on this acoustic guitar track, and let's just kind of listen to it with everything. See if you can even hear the acoustic in the mix. I had a compressor on earlier, but for the sake of the video I took it off. So let's see if you can even hear the acoustic within the mix. So you can kind of hear it. I feel like it could be a little bit louder and more up front, but you can still hear it. So our Pro Tools stock plugin is going to go on this insert here. Okay, and we're going to go to Dynamics, and it's the Dynamics 3 compressor / limiter. So we're going to click on that, and this is what you get. So if you've seen our last video, I put this image up there, and you can kind of see our in and our out and our gain reduction. And we have our parameters here. This is totally going in clean slate, right? And so your input signal is generally going to be the signal that your compressor, that the track the compressor is put on, right? So it's going to be the input signal of our acoustic guitar here. Our output will be the same because it's not being compressed. Our gain reduction is going to be when we see the compressor actually kick on, we'll see how much gain is being reduced in the compression process. We talked about knee. We won't really focus on knee too much. That's just kind of how harsh or smooth you want your slope to be when it goes from uncompressed to compress. But here you can see your attack in milliseconds. You can see your gain, your makeup gain knob here, our ratio here, our release, and our threshold. And just to kind of give you a quick overview, we have our attack, which is how quickly in milliseconds we want the compressor to kind of turn on and pretty much start squashing our track. Our makeup gain is to bring back any gain levels that we lose, because when you compress something, naturally it's going to be a little bit quieter afterwards, and you can actually utilize this gain knob to boost your overall track level. Again, typically you want to try to match the input gain, but you can go a little bit louder. There's kind of no rule on that. You just don't want to, clip your track. Ratio is pretty much how much gain reduction you want. And so for example, in the previous video, we kind of said that for a 2-to-1, the example being if you have 10 dB over your threshold at a 2-to-1 ratio, you're going to get 5 dB of output signal. And that's how a ratio usually works. So if you have a ratio of 1-to-1, it's not going to do anything. It's when you start getting in 2, 3, 4-to-1, and the higher the ratio, the more squashed it's going to kind of sound. Our release is how long it takes the compressor to turn off and to kind of release. And so you never really want a long release here. Like you can go all the way to 4 seconds here. That's not going to be too necessary. And then our threshold is just this tells our compressor when to actually turn on, and you can see how it has a dB kind of given, because this is going to work in accordance with our input meter essentially. So let's take a look. We're going to play the track again, and we're going to take a look at where our track is kind of sitting in terms of dB. So we can kind of see that our track never really goes above -15 dB. It looks like it stays around between 25 to -15. And so when we play, I'm going to adjust this little triangle here. If you notice, this is our threshold. You can see the knob moving as we drag and drop this triangle here. If you go all the way up to 0, the compressor will never really turn on because the track will never reach 0 dB. So let's as we play the track, let's kind of mess with that. So you can see I put it around -28, and you can see our gain reduction meter starts kicking in. This is knowing that the compressor is turning on, right? So if we go back, let's go back to a louder part. That's where the whole band was in. I'll do tab. We kind of have, you know, -30 is what we're telling the compressor, that anything above -30 dB, the compressor is going to compress, right? So that's how that is working. Anything lower than -30 dB, anything below that triangle right here is not going to get compressed. So the next thing we're going to kind of look at is our ratio. So we're working with an acoustic guitar, and for an acoustic guitar, typically I kind of like between 2 to 4 you know, ratio. So 2 to 1 or 4 to 1, anything in between is usually pretty good. So let's go ahead and let's see what 2.5, 2.5, kind of meet in the middle. Yeah, we'll do 2.5 to 1. Is a generally a pretty decent starting point for an acoustic guitar. And then I generally like a slower attack. So we're going to kind of go to like a 20 millisecond. You kind of want the compressor to squash, you know, the acoustic guitar not too fast, right? We want the acoustic guitar to kind of breathe. And so if we set a slower attack time, then that'll give, you know, the compressor enough time to really let the acoustic guitar ring out, and then the compression will start, versus an immediate clamp on those transients. And then for a release, we'll do a medium to slow release. I guess we can try, you know, let's try 75, and let's see how that works out. Now that's not too bad, but because we compressed it, you can see that our output meter is a little bit lower than our input meter. And so you fix that disparity between the output and the input meter by using your makeup gain knob here. And I tried to get it as close as I could to the input signal to kind of match it. Now we're going to bounce back and forth, kind of bypass it, see if you guys can tell a difference. I think the difference is pretty noticeable. I think we can even go a little bit louder, so let's actually push this to like 3.5, and let's see where that gets us. So you can see our output meter is slightly higher than our input meter now, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be identical. General rule of thumb is keep it around the same level as your input, but you can go higher. So I think for the sake of video, let's push this gain even further to kind of show you what that might sound like. So let's actually bump it up like 6 dB. So you can definitely hear a noticeable difference there. It does seem more glued to the mix, and it is a bit louder actually in the mix. And you notice how my release time was actually within 100 milliseconds, and then I brought it back down to 79, and it made it louder. So I'm going to increase the release time, and you can see how that affects the actual sound of the acoustic guitar as well. A higher release time means it's going to keep being compressed until that compressor turns off. And so for an acoustic guitar, like I said, a slower attack, a medium to slow attack with a faster release, or a fast to medium release, I think is a good starting point. You always want to, mix to taste and things like that. But that is the basic use of a compressor, and same concepts apply when you're mixing a vocal track. Actually hit the bypass button to see if you're actually making a difference. And I hope that this video has helped you when it comes to utilizing compression. And I hope that you continue to experiment with your own tracks. And if you have any comments or questions regarding the last two videos in compression, please leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you. I do read all the comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and turn on any kind of bell notifications so my content shows up in your feed. Have a great day, guys.